Hi guys, welcome to the Lightroom. My name is Chisom if you don't know that already, and I am super excited to have you guys here with me. If you're listening on podcast, I send my love to you. If you're tuned in here on YouTube, I want you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not done that already. A lot of work goes into putting out videos every week for your growth, for your benefit, and it would really encourage me if you subscribe, leave a comment, and share with someone who needs to hear what I'm sharing today. So thank you in advance for doing that. On to today's video. I came back on YouTube last week and I was so excited. It was my birthday. Yay, everything was fine. Thank God. Yeah. So the last thing I talked about in that video was an art of gratitude. It was one of the lessons I picked up strongly when I took a break from YouTube. And the whole reason why I took a break is in the last video. So please go back and watch it. I don't want to go into it again. So yeah, the lesson on gratitude I learned was a really big one for me. Not because I think I'm an ingrate, but there's a way you'll be, talking to God and having a prayer, just your normal prayer with God, and God will call you out. It's very different when a human being drags you on something and when God is the one doing the dragging. Because there's a time I was praying. It was a very serious issue. And I was praying about it. In fact, I wasn't just praying, I was wailing and talking to the Lord about it. Like, this thing just needs to go. It was a very big deal. And it didn't entirely go, but the situation became much better. Then another big thing happened. I was thankful. I did a little dance. I told a few friends about it. And then I think the very next week, another big issue came up. And I came to the place of prayer again with the same posture of tenacity, and there's a serious issue, Lord, I need your help. And it was almost like the Lord was bringing my mind back to how I reacted when he answered my last prayer. So now the answer that came may not have been the answer that I was seeking for. Like, it was not an entire change of the situation, but the situation was visibly, obviously better and more bearable for me. And I just realized that I was more invested in prayer and talking to the Lord when I was in trouble, when I needed help, than when the answer came. And I immediately felt ashamed about that. And if you have ever done that, I think most of us have, you're not alone. But I need you to realize that that is not an attitude you should imbibe. If you've noticed it in your life already, I want you to cut it short. One of the scenarios I gave an example of in my last video was how in prayer in church, we start with Thanksgiving. Let's thank God for today. Then we go into the main prayer and we are, our voices are raised. We are so enthusiastic praying about whatever it is we're praying for. And then the speaker says, let's begin to thank God, and the voices drop in the room. I don't want you to be that person. I want you to be the person that when you're in church and you're praying for a miracle, your voice is high. And when you're thanking God for that miracle, your voice is just as high. Not because you're trying to patronize God or you're trying to make sandwich prayers and make your prayers look good. You know how you package your prayer like a CV in a document and drop it on the gas table so that he will look at your own first. No, that's not the strategy you're going for. You're thanking God because of who he is. When you realize why you should have a heart of gratitude, it actually helps you to stay grateful. So what's the first reason? I just said it. You're thanking God for who he is. I think about the eclipse that happened a couple of days ago, and it was so fantastic for many people because it hardly ever happens. We know that the sun shines for a period and we see sunlight everywhere is bright, and we know at a certain time, at least in most places of the world, it goes dark because the sun has gone down. The sun doesn't go down, but that's not what we're talking about today. We shall know that sunshine goes away, and then we have the moon, we have the stars, and everywhere is dark. And you have to go to your house, you have to be safer, and all of that. We can bank on the world functioning that way. That's why the eclipse was so glamorous to many people, because it's a special phenomenon. It doesn't always happen. One thing that really struck me about that is we don't pray for the sun to come up tomorrow. We don't pray to see the sun tomorrow. We can just bank that it's how the world runs and it's going to come up tomorrow. My mind is struggling with saying come up tomorrow because I know the sun doesn't come up, but please, for context of this video, just get what I'm saying. But I'm saying we can bank on things working this way. And there's a verse in Colossians that stuns me every time I read it, that God holds all things through Jesus by his power. Jesus holds the whole world in his hands. We are right to sing that song we used to sing in children's church when we were younger. He holds the whole world in his hands. He has the whole world in his hands. So yeah, it just stuns me that by his words he formed the earth. By his words bringing out light from darkness, everything functions how it should. It's amazing that we have a God that we can bank on that way. There are so many things that scientists have noticed, like if the earth was a certain or a few degrees away from the sun than what it already was, it won't be conducive for living. Like very specific things that function about our life and time here on earth that just allude to such a great and intentional God. And to think that this God who created the heavens and the earth is particular about your life is something to be grateful for, because God doesn't owe us anything. I don't think we realize that many times. Many times when we pray, we say things like, God, prove yourself in my life. And at some point, I started to hear how that prayer sounded, because if I was talking to a king, for instance, an earthly king, or I was talking to Otedola, for instance, he's a rich man in Africa, if you don't know who Otedola is. And I'm like, Otedola, I need you to give me money. I need you to prove yourself in my life that you have money. Prove it in my life so that everybody will know that you have money. But it's such a funny argument, because Otedola doesn't know Chisom exists. If he knows, thank God. But to the best of my knowledge, he doesn't know that Chisom exists, and the whole world knows that he's a rich man. Talk more of God. God doesn't need to prove something majestic or fantastic to you to prove that he is God. If he doesn't do it, it doesn't take away his deity from him or his power from him. So we should be grateful that a God as powerful as our God is, that doesn't owe us anything, chooses to show his goodness to us. That time when you make that little prayer on the road, maybe it's about to rain and no bus has stopped, and then you're like, God, I need a bus. You just make a silent prayer. You may not have even said, God. You may have just, prayed, oh, I need a bus. And then before you know it, the bus just stops right in front of you. Those little prayers you make. And then those big prayers you make, that fee that you were owing, that big issue that looked like it was never going to work, and God made it work. This same God doing these things for you when he doesn't have to, it's enough to be grateful for. It's more than you can know to be grateful for. And I think if we should document the things that God does in our lives, we will learn to be more grateful. So I've shared a couple of things. I'm not even listing points anymore. I'm just trusting that you're following this video and you're taking note of these things. But you should be grateful. God doesn't need to, but he comes through in your life. One thing that God taught me about being grateful in the period I took a break was, there was this day, they took lights in the house. And our gen was overworked because there had not been lights in the house. So our generator was overworked and it spoiled. Now, to repair the gen was going to cost us a lot of money. We finally were able to bring up the money, and the repairer said he will not be able to get the gen back to us till the next day. Now, we did not have lights and there was heat everywhere. I don't know. I think there's been like a heat wave in Nigeria. It's been really bad. But there was heat. I didn't know how we're going to, go through the night without sweating. If you open the windows, I don't know whether it's better or worse. It was just very hot and there was no light. There hadn't been light for days. And I was like, Lord, I would really love for there to be lights tonight, because I didn't want to have to sleep and be sweating on my bed like I was being chased by somebody. But I just made silent prayer in my head and they brought the lights. And I was like, our gen is not here and there is light through the night. There was light through the night and I was really so happy. Then the next day, there was still lights. And my husband came to me and was like, babe, this one there's still lights. What's happening? I was like, shh, don't say anything, because now if he is saying that there is lights and these people have not taken lights, they will hear you and they will take the lights. And I don't know, I think it's a Nigerian thing, because I don't know who planted that notion in me, but I've had it since I was younger, that once something is going good, just don't talk about it so that it's not spoiled. Like now that they've repaired Third Mainland Bridge, Some people don't want to comment too much. Before they'll comment now and the bridge will now start having potholes. I don't know why we think that way, but I was thinking that way that day. And then I could almost so clearly hear, like I am so convinced of what I heard. Because I was just thinking about it that, this one that there's lights, let them not take lights. So, and when they eventually took the lights, I wanted to pray again for lights, but I'm like, should I be praying for lights? Would they bring lights? And the Holy Spirit corrected me in that notion, and He reminded me that your God is not NEPA. Your God is not a corrupt official somewhere that is trying to shortchange the things that taxations have paid for or things like that. Your God is just. He's kind and He cares about you. So don't approach Him like He doesn't care. And it really struck me. And in my head, I'm like, what's the worst case scenario? If I pray that they should bring lights and they did not bring lights, then I get to bank and trust on God's goodness despite the situations that I am in per time. Now, if I pray and they bring lights, I get to enjoy His goodness in real time. So it's a win-win for me. So I learned to see God as who He is, a kind God. And if He doesn't come through in the areas I'm asking Him to come through, I can still trust His goodness despite those situations, because He's good and that's not dependent on what I feel or what I experience per time. So if you are looking to learn how to be more grateful, how to develop this attitude of gratitude, no pun intended, if you're trying to, build this culture, I will just give you a couple of tips to run by. Number one, journal. You don't have to be a girly girl guys should journal, girls should journal, everyone should journal. And you could journal on your phone, you could journal on your notepad, your physical notepad. I love handwritten stuff, so I journal both ways. But it helps you. I have a prayer journal. I've had a prayer journal for the longest time. And my prayer journal was really me documenting things I believe God tells me in prayer. And sometimes when I'm just so overwhelmed and I can't find the voice to pray loud, I just journal how I'm feeling and tell the Lord, this is how I'm feeling and all of that. And sometimes I read through my prayer journal and I'm just so grateful. But one day the Lord prompted me to have a gratitude journal, a journal where I write down things that the Lord does for me. Big things, little things. Okay, I was craving parfait today. My husband bought me parfait without me asking. That's a miracle. I'm going to write it down. I was praying for them to bring lights and they brought lights. That's a miracle. I'm going to write it down. That big thing I've been praying for finally happened. I'm going to write it down. And it helps you when you read that journal on a difficult day. It helps you see the track record of God's faithfulness to you. Another thing I'll tell you if you want to learn to imbibe this lifestyle is be careful of how you banter. Banter is sweet. I'm not arguing. No. Banter is very sweet. But sometimes we just lose ourselves in reckless banter. That even the very things you should be grateful to God for, you just turn it to banter. Let me give you an example. And this is probably how I'll wrap up the video. So my husband went out a couple of weeks ago and I didn't go with him. He went to, I can't remember where he went, but he went somewhere. And then he came back and then he was telling me that there was a point where he was on the road where he could have been in a very big accident with a truck. And he explained the scenario to me, and it was the truck's problem. No, I'm not even trying to support my husband, even though he drives so well, but it was actually the truck's problem. So in that moment, I wanted to banter and I'm like, I don't know why these trucks drive like this. Why don't they have sense? But I just realized that people have died for less. People this situation could have been deadlier. I think about some accidents that God saves me from when I'm driving. And I'm just like, if there was a split second where this car did not move or I didn't brake when I braked, it could have been way worse. And I was just thinking about it. In that moment, I was about to start bantering about how badly people drive or why there was no street lights on such a major road. And I just thought about it. It's my husband that told me this story by himself. I could have been hearing it in the newspapers. I could have been hearing it in the hospital. And when my husband stepped out of the room, I was just like, oh, thank God. And then when he stepped out of the room, I just lay down on the floor and I'm like, God, thank you. I don't know how bad this could have been, But I'm thankful that it did not get there. I'm thankful we don't have to think about hospital bills. I'm thankful that I don't have to start planning a burial for my husband. I am just thankful. And in that moment, I began to remember several things he has done for me when I wanted to order food and I did not have money. And somehow I had money and I was able to order the food I liked. Like little things and big things. I started to just thank God for it. And it's a culture I'm learning to infuse into my life day after day. And I hope you do the same. In all your banter carefully. And don't slight the miracles that God has given to you in your life in any way, shape, or form. So as promised, this is where I will end my video. I look to see you in my next video. If you have not left a comment on what resonates with you, or you've not liked this video already, please do so. If you're not subscribed to this channel, I don't know, I've been begging for like 77 videos now. Please subscribe to this channel. Thank you. I love you. I'm grateful. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll see you in my next video. If you're listening on podcast, again, I send my love. Thank you for listening. Bye. Till my next episode. Bye.